ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, founders, CECU executives, and all those passionate about the Web3 ecosystem. Welcome to the Growly Club webinar. I'm Nick, your host for today's enlightening session. Before we dive into our agenda, I want to ensure that everyone can hear me and see me well. If you can hear me clearly and see me without any issues, could you please type yes in the chat? I'll give everyone a moment to respond. Thank you for your responses. Let's proceed. We have gathered here in this virtual space to explore, learn, and grow together in the dynamic world of Web3 startups. The Growly Club is more than just a community. It's a collaborative platform where we share valuable tools, tips, and insights to help each other thrive in the Web3 ecosystem. Today, we have an exciting agenda lined up for you. We'll delve into the art of crafting compelling Web3 pitch decks, unravel the mysteries of crypto funds in 2023, and learn how to avoid common mistakes that can hinder your success. We aim to provide you with a roadmap to mastering the nuances of fundraising in different market conditions. Before we wrap up, I want to make a short reminder. In a week, we'll be holding a demo day. Everyone who wants to participate has to submit their pitch decks to the Growly Telegram bot by the 28th of July. We'll handpick 10 decks to pitch on demo day, but don't worry, our experts will review every pitch deck we receive. Here's what the 3 winners will get. First, the first place winner will have the opportunity to have their pitch deck, to share their pitch deck with 500 Web3 investors, get free premium access to InnMind and one-on-one sessions with each of our speakers. The second and third places will be featured in the InnMind newsletter, reaching over 50,000 Web3 audience and one-on-one sessions with each speaker too. And the best part, all participants will get a 50% discount on InnMind Premium. Sounds great, right? Let's join forces and empower the Web3 community together. Welcome to the Growly Club webinar. Let's get started. And it's time to introduce our first speaker for today's webinar. We're privileged to have with us Mitchell Kim, a mentor at Alchemist Accelerator, a renowned platform that transforms technical founders into experienced entrepreneurs. Mitchell is a seasoned professional with a wealth of experience in the startup ecosystem. He has been instrumental in guiding numerous startups through their growth journey, providing them with the tools and insights needed to navigate the complex world of funding. Today, Mitchell will be sharing his expertise on a topic that is crucial for every startup: 7 steps to get funded. This is a topic that resonates with every entrepreneur who dreams of turning their innovative ideas into reality. Mitchell will guide us through the intricacies of securing funding, providing a step-by-step approach that can be a game changer for your startup. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Mitchell Kim. Mitch, the virtual stage is yours.
Hi, Nick. Thank you very much. Hi, guys. Nice to meet you. Let me share my screen and start right away. Do you see my screen now?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Let me start. So my name is Mitch, and let me start my presentation, 7 steps to get funded. Shortly about me, I'm a Chief Growth Officer at SpeechKey. We are funded by Greycroft, Tier 1 fund from New York City. I'm advisor at 13 startups. I'm also mentor, judge, speaker at Alchemist. Just recently also I had a session at the University of Notre Dame. And also I'm founder at VentureRoof. I help founders raise 10 millions. Also, just several months ago, my article was recently launched on Alchemist Accelerator blog. I there explain about dopamine hacks, about success hack, also how to set up your LinkedIn profile, how to send different cold emails, and also about webinars and viral posts. If you're interested, just just go to this web page and you will see lots of different interesting things. So let's get started. So step number one, focus on sales. You might not need fundraising. What I mean by that, just yesterday on the Crunchbase, a new article launched about that many different startups right now are declined. So just in 2023, not so many startups. And actually, there are some different memes that there is no startups, no money, no startups. So what I mean also by focus on sales, there are lots of different questions you might ask yourself. For example, how many calls did you have with your prospective clients last week or last month? How many clients do you have on the wait list? How many clients did sign letter of intent with you? And how many clients are ready to pay for your product? If you cannot answer these questions, probably you must focus on sales rather than fundraising. And what I found is that founders' mindset usually is around product base. So founders love their product, they're carrying it like baby, but founders don't want to focus on sales and fundraising. And ugly truth is that startup's not story about product, but startup is story about growth. Step number two is focus on fundraising as a full-time job. And I would like to explain here in a reverse engineering. So let's consider how many touches do we need to have with investors to schedule calls with them? How many calls we need in total with investors? How many investors will express interest and jump on a second call? How many investors will be in due diligence in cadence in our, let's say, pre-sales round? And how many investors will participate in the round? Let's start from the end. So how many investors will participate in the round? It might be 5 investors. How many investors will be in due diligence? Let's imagine conversion rate around 80%, so total will be 7 investors. How many investors will jump on a second call? Let's imagine conversion rate in 25%, so total will be around 30 investors. How many calls do we need with investors in total? Let's imagine again conversion rate around 25%, so total will be more than 100 investors. And let's imagine how many touches do we need to have investors, to schedule call with them. Around 10% conversion rate will be more than 1,000 investors. So just imagine you need to connect with more than 1,000 investors to close around with just 5 investors, close deals. Step number 3, KPI calls. So you should set up weekly targets. Sometimes I'm judged in different accelerators, for example, Alchemist, and my number one question I love to ask different founders to understand their intention is how many calls with investors did they have last week? So if founder cannot answer exactly or approximately, for example, around 10 or maybe 20, it means that founder is not in fundraising stage. So let's perform some calculations. So fundraising period is around 3 to 6 months. The total number of calls should be more than 200. So KPI calls per week should be more than 10. So just focus on this number. Next page, lead sources for fundraising. There are many sources for fundraising, but you should focus on the next main sources just to keep your focus on fundraising. So you should go to different Web3 focus groups, angel investors, blockchain accelerators. Also should focus on networking and different events and conferences with startups and investors. Participate in pitch competition like Grow Lead Demo Day next week. And also reach out to VC and investors. We will deep dive about that a bit later on. Step number 5, create pitch and deck. So how to create a deck? Let me tell you that actually you don't need to focus on a deck at all, just because every investor will tell you that they don't like something in any page. But what I'd like to say, different founders, that the most important page in the deck is your traction and growth. And usually you should put this page on the first, in the front line, maybe page number 1, just to get attention of investors to have a discussion with you further. How to pitch? As I already mentioned, that product is not sales. Product is not equal to sales. Sales is success, and success is usually emotional decision of different investors. So you can mention that you work with NASA, you got achievement product of the day, you work with Google, have more than 100 clients, maybe you have great revenue like 1 million ARR. Maybe you got achievement Forbes 30 under 30, or maybe you work in previously in unicorn. Step number 6, cadence and CRM. So not so many details here about cadence and CRM. I just want to mention that you can use any CRM you would like. Just the most important that you should use that and should inform about progress, different challenges, and about some roadmaps in your fundraising with your investors. And how helps actually CRM? It increases your, sorry, just a second. You can, by CRM, you can increase conversion rate with different investors in the cadence of your fundraising. And step number 7, venture-proof your fundraising lead generation team. So I'm founder at venture-proof. Just imagine we are your fundraising team. Imagine that project duration is around 3-5 months. We can send different customized emails and LinkedIn messages to approximately 500 funds. Also, we send different automated emails and also LinkedIn messages with dopamine messages to approximately 5,000 different funds. And we have some cases in June. We recently helped raise must-have startup 1.3 million. We had reached more than 5,000 investors and job more than 200 calls. Also in June, we closed one round with various capitals for startup approved. Thank you very much. Reach out if you need me.
A huge thank you to Mitchell for your invaluable insight on startup funding. Your expertise will undoubtedly guide many entrepreneurs on their journey. And please welcome our next speaker for today's webinar, Nelli Orlova, the CEO of InnMind, a global ecosystem that aims to expedite the growth of technology startups and support their successful investment rounds. Nelli is a visionary leader with a deep understanding of the startup landscape. Her expertise in connecting startups with investors, coupled with her passion for innovation, has made InnMind a go-to platform for many aspiring entrepreneurs. Today, Nelli will be sharing her insights on a topic that is both timely and essential, mastering the art of Web3 pitch decks, rules, tips, mistakes. In the evolving world of Web3, having a compelling pitch deck can be the difference between securing funding or missing out on opportunities. Nelli will guide us through the process of creating effective Web3 pitch decks, sharing rules to follow, tips to enhance your presentation, and common mistakes to avoid. Let's warmly welcome Nelli Orlova and eagerly await her insights and expertise. Nelli, the virtual stage is now yours.
Hi, Nick. Thank you so much for this warm introduction. And hello, everyone who is watching us on YouTube. Thanks a lot for Growly Club for setting up this cozy but very insightful discussion. And I will do my best to be laconic, but stop me if I'm over time, okay? Give me a sec to start screen share. And by the way, I really enjoyed the presentation of Mitch, and he has covered already plenty of important points, not only about fundraising, but also regarding pitch decks.
Sure.
While I'm sharing my screen, I'm very curious to understand how many of the audience watching us on YouTube now already have their pitch decks ready to show to VC investors. So guys, if you have a minute, drop us a message in the live chat telling if you already have your deck proved and received feedback by any of the VC investors or not yet. Do you see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay, good. So today we will talk about pitch decks specifically for Web3 startups, and why I feel confident to share anything with you about that, mostly because during years of existence of InnMind, we helped to raise funding to hundreds of Web3 startups. Only the last couple of years, we closed more than 60 million worth deals for early stage Web3 companies. And of course, we reviewed thousands of pitch decks. I already lost the count, how many. Plus, I also have another hat as an angel or mini VC investor. We have a VC vehicle called InnMind Capital, where we invested in 13 Web3 startups on early stage. So we kind of understand the process both from a founder side, from an investor side, and from a fundraiser side. And InnMind is meant to help you to connect you with VC investors. As Mitch already said, the conversion rate should be considered from the beginning. And in order to close the round, well, if not thousands, you need to reach out to hundreds of VC investors to convert just a few of them into your real investors on cap table. On InnMind, we have around 3,000 of crypto VC investors actively investing in Web3 founders. So feel free to scan this code, or if you join us later on, contact Growly Club team, and they will definitely share this presentation with you later on. And before we move to the pitch deck part, let me give you a few numbers regarding the fundraising landscape nowadays. Everyone is complaining about bear market conditions, and that's true. The bear market is tough, but let me tell you that this bear market, which we face right now, it's not that bad as many founders feel it to be. It's just some stats here. So during only Q1 this year, Web3 startups raised over $2.6 billion VC funding. And as you see here, more than 33 billion is allocated to crypto VC funds. And this money should be deployed in the next few years into early stage Web3 companies. So everyone has a chance to raise funding. It's all about the quality of the project. However, there is definitely a huge difference between fundraising on a bull market and a bear market. As you can see here, on a bull market, the average time to deal closure is 2-3 weeks from the first time you contact VC investor and pitch to him to actually getting SAFT signed and transaction confirmed. Sometimes it can be even shorter, just a few days. And believe me, we faced situations then where it was few hours, literally. But on bear market, the timing is definitely different. So the average time to deal closure nowadays, since the second half of last year, is around 3-4 months. I hope I'm not covering the presentation here. So you can see 3-4 months it will take to close the first deal in average. So be prepared for it when you count your runaway, and keep this in mind that even if you have brilliant team and amazing product, you will hardly shorten this time frame for investors. So don't run out of the money. Few tips for VC fundraising on a bear market. As Mitch already elaborated, reach as many investors as possible. This is really core. And if you do not have your private network or good connections that can introduce you with multiple VCs, feel free to use platforms, different networks like InnMind, for example, and just start reaching out, pitching to VCs. Second, many founders forget about following up. And guys, this is essential. If you do not get a feedback from investor in Telegram, LinkedIn, or InnMind platform messenger within the first few days, don't hesitate to remind about yourself. And I can tell you it's absolutely fine, absolutely polite to have 3-4 reminders about your project before the first reply from the investor. Just imagine investors' Telegram is really overwhelmed and they can easily just miss your message in their inbox. Ask feedback. This is another important factor many first-time founders forget. Don't ask for money right away. When you just start your fundraising journey, don't hesitate to ask investors for the feedback regarding your pitch and regarding your project. And even if the investor comes back to you saying he passes on the deal, no worries. Still ask him or her for a feedback, because these can help you to become better, to improve your deck, to make it clearer, and so on and so forth. Another simple but important thing not to forget: use solutions like DocSend. There are also a few alternatives on the market when you start your actual outreach for investors and sending them your deck. Because when you do it just in PDF or Google files, you can't really track if investor opened it, how many time did he spend looking at your slides, what slides did he skip, and which ones attracted the most attention. So DocSend allows you to track all these data from investors for reviewing your pitch deck. It's really, really helpful. And as Mish already elaborated, use fundraising CRM. By the way, we have it to be downloaded for free on InnMind knowledge base. So feel free to download it if you do not have the template yet for yourself. Few other rules for Web3 pitch decks. So as a founder, I know that you want to explain everything around your project. Every single detail is important for you. But for investors, the more laconic and straightforward it is, the better. So after you build the first deck, which is probably 20-30 slides, review it a few times again and look at every slide from the perspective, is it really necessary? Keep only the slides that add any value to the first impression for investor. All the rest you can remove shamelessly. Another thing, keep it clear and simple. Guys, you can't imagine how many decks we receive and don't have a clue what startup is building, even on the 10th slide. Many founders, especially techie teams, they struggle to explain in a simple, clear way what they are building, why, and for what audience. And that's essentially important. Majority of VCs will just skip your project and most probably not even read till the end if it is not explained in the first few slides. Don't forget also to address Web3 specific aspects like tokenomics and decentralization. And even when you are building your deck, don't forget to get prepared answering the question why you need blockchain or decentralization in your product. Because, you know, there are many projects also pivoting from Web 2 to Web 3, and there are also a lot of new projects in the Web 3 sector that are not maybe Web 3 or crypto native, and that truly believe that tokenization will simplify their fundraising and make their life easier, and due to hype or market conditions, it's the best way to go. It's not true. And majority of smart, experienced investors will question it from the beginning if you really need decentralization and tokens, for example, in your project or not. And if it is artificially attached to your business model, then you will have troubles not only during fundraising, but also during further development stage. Fundability, yeah. So this means try to understand yourself how investors can make money investing in your project, and deliver this somehow in one of the slides in your pitch deck or during your pitch. And of course, also many founders forget about that. Don't forget to back up that data. So, for example, in the market opportunity slide, if you put some numbers, if you refer to any industry reports, don't forget to make a hyperlink so that any investor can click it and understand what you are referring to, if it is a trusted source of information. And guys, if anything is unclear, don't forget to ask questions in the live chat. And here is the proof of my last recommendation from the previous slide, prove the data. Look at these two examples on the left slide and on the right slide. These are slides from two different Web3 startups that build products in the similar niche and for the similar audience, for Web3 startups, for dApps. And we received these slides, these pitch decks, within literally 1 week of time. You can see the first startup says that 4,000 of new dApps appear per month, which sounds like quite a huge market. Another startup claims that there are 2,000 Web3 startups appearing per year. The data is crucially different, but none of them has any source linked to that data. So where did they take these numbers? I have no clue, and nobody has. And by the way, when we asked the founders where did they take the data and if they can send us the proof, they failed doing it. So it's just an example. Now imagine yourself being an investor and receiving these contradictory data references. Will you trust any of the founders here? You decide. And it really helps if you try putting yourself in investor's shoes, and when you already drafted your deck, try looking at it with investor's eyes and answer the questions. First of all, is that clear from the first sentences, from the first slide, what you are building and why the market needs it? Second, can this project grow to a huge multi-million or billion-dollar business? Can this team deliver? So did you introduce your team properly? Not just, names and beautiful photos, but explaining why your team can deliver this. Are there any red flags? This is another topic, I believe, for the next Growly Club webinar about red flags. And how do you feel about the founders? So are they trustworthy? And what is your risk-earn balance for the project? And don't forget about FOMO factor. FOMO is fear of missing out. Unfortunately, on a bull market, on a bear market, FOMO is not so typical. That is why also we have such a longer distance between the first connection and the final decision from the investor side. But in general, what can be FOMO? So what can drive investor to invest today or this week and not postpone this deal a few months later? It could be the traction from your side. It could be the new hot deal or huge milestone that will directly affect your valuation in a very short period of time. It can be another huge investor entering your round. So there are multiple reasons to drive FOMO of investors. Think about them and add, if you have any of these, add them to your pitch and your pitch deck. Don't be hesitant. Yeah, and I really like this summary from Y Combinator, where they look at each deck answering just 3 simple questions. Do I understand the idea? Am I excited by the idea? And do I like the team? From investor perspective, these 3 simple questions, they build the fundament for the decision making. And here is another example from one of our portfolio companies. just answering the questions that I mentioned previously about clarity. So tell me in the live chat, please, which slide is more clear, guys? From which slide, left or right, you really understand what this startup is building? Let me remove myself, not to hide the text. Yeah. Right is better. Alban, Richard is Sergey 1. Yeah. Anyone else, guys? So not to make it too long, I agree. Right is definitely better. Of course, it can be even better. It is never perfect, but you see the difference yourself, yeah? That when you are not clear with the core messaging, then it makes the whole thing super confusing. Yeah, FOMO examples. We just discussed the FOMO factor. So top VCs on the cap table. Maybe it could be also your TGE event or public sale that will be just in a month's time. So investors understand that they need to make a decision before that. Otherwise, it will be too late. And of course, everything related to your growth numbers, traction, users, sales, etc. And if you hit this FOMO, your investors can look like this duck. Essential slides. You know what? Since we have, Nick, can you tell me how much time do we have left? Because I can shorten it to
in fact, you have some time because Mitch finished very early.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I will try to be faster because at the end of this presentation, I prepared for you more examples from the real startup pitch decks that you can refer to. So title slide, I already showed to you the example that how can you make it clearer what you are building. The problem, yeah, for sure, discuss the problem and explain why it is huge. And by the way, guys, many founders, they also try to be creative. And instead of following the golden standard of the pitch deck structure, title, problem, solution, product, market, whatever, they try to become creative and removing some slides or adding some new titles. It's not really good because all investors are short in time. All VC analysts are also short in time reviewing hundreds of decks per month. And they spend in average 3-4 minutes per one deck. So they need to understand it very clearly and also understand on what shell in their mind they should put your startup. Is it a pre-seed startup with the MVP and first traction, or pre-MVP product with the low valuation, or whatever it is? There are plenty of different characters in investors' mind where they put mentally each startup after the first consideration. And when you become too creative and go outside golden standards in the pitch deck or pitch, then you make it more difficult for investors to put you in any of these shells, and it is not good. So solution slider, it can be also combined with the slide about product. It is explaining what you are building and in a very, very clear manner. While in the product slide, you go deeper in the technological aspect and ideally highlight why technologically it is a scalable, advantageous product. Business model, some crypto startups forget about that slide. It is the ways where you generate revenues, how actually you plan to make money. What are your revenue streams? Is it transactional business model? Is it SaaS? How token is involved there? If your startup is tokenized, then essentially important to have a few slides about tokenomics. So in one slide, you should explain the utility of your token, and ideally not listing all the utilities that you imagine in your beautiful mind, but highlight the most important factors why your users will need your token. Another slide should be dedicated for the token metrics. And please don't split it into 5 different slides. In one, it's distribution. In another slide, it's initial market cap and fully diluted, and so on and so forth. Put everything in one simple table where investor looking at this table understands on which round you are right now, what rounds were before, and what funding rounds will be later on. What is the difference of the price involvement between different rounds? So, for example, if the cost of the token was 30% less before the ongoing round, how much investor may potentially earn? What will be the price of the token for the public round? Initial market cap, fully diluted. Everything should be in one simple table, easily understandable by the investors. Team. For the team members, please don't forget to highlight only the most relevant backgrounds that can somehow prove to investor that you can kick this project off the ground. So don't describe all your life story and all your co-founders' life story. And very important, many investors complain when they do not have in the team slide hyperlink to your LinkedIn profiles of the team members. Unfair advantages. Unfortunately, I rarely see this slide in Web3 and crypto startup pitch decks, but these unfair advantages is everything related why you can overcome competitors. Maybe you have specific IP. Maybe you have access to huge B2B clients or partners with amazingly huge communities that will ensure your access to early adopters or whatever else it could be. Very beneficial to have this slide. Go-to-market strategy. It's about your plan to launch the product and reach the first customers and then scale it all. Competitors, well, I think that's quite clear. Traction and roadmap. Extremely important slides, especially about traction. Very often we see pitch decks where after reading it, you still do not understand, does this startup have a product or not yet? It's in the development stage. So please highlight your traction, highlight your development stage, highlight if you have any early adopters, if you did any CAS-DEF, if you have the first sales, everything related to your business traction should be exposed in the deck. And of course, call to action. What actually do you want from investors and how can they reach you out? Yeah, now is the sweet part about examples. But before that, market opportunity slide. Many startups struggle to have to make an extensive market research. They lack numbers, they don't have time or skills to do the proper research of all market opportunities. So just a small hint, you can also look at other startups in your niche. How do they pitch the market opportunities and what numbers do they expose? And as highlighted here, there are more than 15,000 startup profiles on InnMind. You can look at them and make some competitor research there as well. Here is the example of the market slider. So on the left slide, you see project Galaxies, yeah, and they have this report linked and a few sentences. And on the right slide, you see standard time, sum, sum. and the numbers from the market. I'm asking here which one is more convincing, but I'm sure that majority of you will understand the right one is more convincing. Look at your pitch deck after this presentation and think yourself, is your slide more similar to the left one or right one? Another example from the token utility slide. So in this example, we have the described utility for one of the early stage Web3 metaverse projects. And you can see there, the founder tried to convince that there are plenty of utilities, but none of them answers the question why users should spend money to buy your token or spend time and effort to earn your token. So utility is there from the first view, yeah, it's described and plenty of text, but it's absolutely not convincing. Another slide, problem and solutions. So I hope this helps you to see yourself. What is the difference from investors' eyes? Yeah, what's the difference between convincing slide and not convincing slide? In both cases, they have the problem described, but on the left slide is just, you know, some statements, bold statements from the founders' minds. On the right slide, you have not only more details, but you also have some numbers from the market, that the current price is like this, yeah, the links and everything. So you have much better understanding of the weight of the problem and how tough it is for the market players. Another slide also actually demonstrating the problem description. So here, the opportunity is explained in statements, just in statements that should be somehow proved and should be somehow checked. And on the right slide, you see it in numbers. So $9 billion worth lost. This is a huge problem for sure for everyone in this market. And you do not need to spend extra effort to convince investor with such a slide. This is about clarity. So I believe we can move on in order not to be long in time. Roadmap. So this is also the beautiful example, I think, because from one side, everyone thinks, oh, roadmap, quite a simple task to explain in your slide. But at the same time, look, there are 3 examples here. On this left bottom side, you see this creative, beautiful, but very unclear structure. Do you have any clue where this project is now? You need to make an effort to understand, we are here, December, but I received in this pitch deck in February, so where they are? They should be here. So really messing up and confusing. On the bottom right slide, it's like beautiful, very clear, bold statements, prototype, alpha, closed beta, open beta, etc. And if you have it to be more, if you are on very early stage and want to have it more detailed, combining not only development stage, but also business development stage, you can use as a reference this slide in the middle with more details year by year. Going next, go-to-market strategy. Yeah, you can also see yourself. In the left side, we have the go-to-market strategy from one of the startups. And actually, they put as their go-to-market milestones particular events, yeah, hackathon on Binance, partnership with ES Force, and specific NFT project launch. But at the same time, looking at this go-to-market strategy, Are you convinced that this project will build significant user audience? Or do you have any clue after hitting these 3 milestones, how many users they will generate and how much revenue they will generate afterwards? I believe no. Look at the right slide. Go-to-market strategy consists of also not 3 but 4 main aspects, but at the same time you have clear KPI, 450k leads generated within the first year. You see it here, and you can understand and measure yourself the opportunity from the investor side. This is what I explained you already about the token slide, token metrics, sorry. So on the bottom right, you see the tokenomics slider from the startup, which probably does not answer any of your questions as an investor. What is the size of the round? What is the price of the current round? What is the margin you will have as an early investor compared to the public round? And so on and so forth. At the same time, this big slider on the top is from AVA protocol. By the way, it's one of our portfolio companies, a really cool one, infrastructure startup. And on one slide, you have actually everything that you need to know as an investor to size this opportunity from financial standpoint. Looking at the topic, looking at the token, how many rounds they have, what is the price difference between different rounds, yeah? What is the vesting period and log, cliff, equivalent in dollars, and so on. Here I continue examples with this token metric slide. And again, when you look at your own tokenomics token metric slider, remember please these examples and tell yourself, is this slide self-explanatory? Do investors understand the price of the token, the difference of the price, vesting, cliff, IMC, FDMV, and other metrics from just one simple and clear table? Here is an example of team slider. Look at the left. There are 3 really cool guys, but as an investor, do you have any clue if these guys can deliver? I doubt so. You can only say that, well, cool guys, smiley. But on the right slider, you have another deck where actually they highlighted the core experience of founding team members. Where did they work? They put in bold, and by the way, they could do it even better formatting, I mean, the information, but they put in bold all the most relevant experience from the team. Also good practice to add logos of the previous companies they worked in, and so on. Yeah, so here are about common mistakes, but I think at this point of time, we can stop. If you have any questions, make a pause and answer your questions. It would be better. And one more time, even if you forget everything I was talking about today, remember one simple thing: be as clear and self-explanatory in your deck as possible. Don't even dream that if you will have complicated, extra creative delivery of the information, don't even dream that investors will spend extra time and effort to search in the internet and clarify it with you afterwards. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Nelly, we got a couple of questions. So first one is, in your experience, in your network, in the Web3 space, how visionary are investors? How much do they rely on data, and how much are they able to see the vision of a startup that is actually disrupting a sector, for example, Airbnb?
I'm digesting the question and trying to answer in an honest manner. So on my experience, if we speak about specific Web3 and crypto sector and professional VCs that are backing early stage Web3 and crypto startups, Vlad, honestly, majority of them are less visionary and more relying maybe not even to the data, but to the ongoing market trend. I mean, please understand it correctly. I speak not about 100% of VC investors in our niche, but if we speak about majority, the picture is, as I described, they rely on ongoing market trends and on very much rely on the opinions and behavior of other investors, as well as performance of similar startups in the similar niche that may be launched earlier. I hope I answered your question. If not, feel free to drop clarifying question.
Excellent. And Nelly, next question from Bacharnik. Nelly, what do you think about the slides when startups are adding table with their competitors, comparing have, don't have, and making the project look like they're the best in the field before even launching?
So, first of all, nearly every slide with competitors is like that. I can tell you that like 9 out of 10 slides for sure will look like the startup, early stage startup. Then they mention top market players as competitors and a lot of features which these startups will have and the competitors do not have. And then you look at the slide and wow, this startup is the best of the best. Everything is marked in bold and green, while competitors have red cross, yeah? Usually it makes us laugh, same as investors, yeah? They smile when they see it. Don't forget, competing is not about actually features. Competing is about more elegant, more cheap, or more fast solution for the problem that is solved in inefficient way nowadays or not solved at all. So when you do your competitor slide, it's better to mention less features. Maybe it's better to focus on problems. But Charnik, I hope I answered your question. Again, if not, feel free to clarify with the next ones.
Perfect. And another question is from Bertie Range for projects at MVP pre-seed stage. How do we approach track? Excuse me.
No worries, Nick. If you want, I can open and read it myself.
Just a second. So, how do we approach traction? Oh, traction growth sales slides when we're not at that stage yet?
So means when you are on a very early stage and you still do not have traction or growth. So first of all, about growth, well, guys, you plan to grow. So on the growth slide, you can put the numbers that you plan. For the traction, I do not believe that you have literally zero traction. Whatever stage you are in, you have done something already. Think about it this way. If you did your customer development and if you reached out for, let's say, 100 of potential customers, making interviews with them to understand what is their main pain or how much are they willing to pay for the solution? Or if you have reached out to few potential partners that will kickstart your official partnership once your MVP is live. Or if you have any leads from B2B sector or whatever that would love to sign MOU on your next development stage. All these can be a part of your traction slider. So traction slider is not about how big your numbers are to present. It's about demonstrating to investors that you are not just, you did not wake up yesterday with the idea to make a startup and immediately going asking them for money without doing anything by yourself so far. Even if you managed to build up a team of great partners working for free for your project because they believe in it, it is already traction as well. Because as a founder, you could motivate other people to work for free and maybe spend their time and money to build something together. So reconsider your own understanding of your traction.
Yeah, Nelly, thank you for the answer. Could you please move your head out of the way of your QR code to make it work? And okay. we have one or two more questions. So one is from Elban Richard. What are the interests of Web3 ventures from equity to ICO or IDO? First, interested by equity versus tokens. Are they asking for both if there is an ICO IDO on the roadmap?
Alban, this is a very good question, and I can tell you that my answer will relate to the current market conditions, because what we observed so far, for example, 2 years ago, vast majority, more than 90% of Web3 VCs, they would prefer to go purely on tokens, not equity at all. Since the bear market started, more and more investors wanted to secure the deal, having a part in equity in addition to tokens. And nowadays, I can tell you that I think at least 50% of crypto VCs would love to receive an offer in equity plus tokens. Moreover, many good startups nowadays, they are not preparing to launch token as soon as possible because they understand there is no clarity how long this bear market will last. And they do not want to give unproven promises to investors that they will launch in 2 months or 3 months or half a year. If the market will be really bad for public launch, then what's the sense to plan your TGE in a 3 months time? Thus, instead of doing clear traditional soft, they are offering equity plus token warrant. This also refers to another situation when a startup does not have full tokenomics in place yet. So, for example, you are building your tokenomics, you understand that it will be the core of your business model. But at this moment of time, you still need to run some experiments with your early adopters to understand what will be the best setup of your future token. What will be the main metrics that will help you to build a sustainable business model and token model. And thus, instead of doing soft again, they are offering equity plus token warrant. It's a standard form. By the way, we have a template of such an agreement on InnMind knowledge base as well. You can download it. I hope I answered your question. If not, let me know, and I will do my best to answer it better.
And the final question from Terra Global Sales Partners. So they said, we secured 2 grants. Would this quantify, I believe they mean qualify as traction?
Of course, guys. So this is one of the examples of the traction you can demonstrate. However, please don't put it only grants, put anything else in this slide that you have achieved so far. But securing 2 grants, I guess these grants are from blockchain protocols, correct? So this is also demonstrating to investors that those grant providers believe in your startup. In these market conditions, nobody gives helicopter money as it was 2 years ago, where Polygon, for example, was throwing tickets like 5K to every single startup who applied without even doing any due diligence. Right now, it's an opposite situation. Every blockchain protocol is more or less doing due diligence, consideration, and they significantly reduce the amount of grant money they are giving away. So if you secured grants from 2 companies on such market conditions, this is definitely an achievement that you can highlight in your traction slide.
Excellent. So that was the final question. Thank you, Nelly. Our gratitude goes out to you for the insightful session on Web3 pitch decks. Your experience and knowledge are crucial assets for every entrepreneur navigating the dynamic world of Web3. Thank you. And it's time to introduce our next distinguished speaker for today's webinar. We're privileged to have with us Paul Moukhin, a seasoned professional in the world of crypto funds. Paul is not just an expert in his field, but a guiding light for many who navigate the complex waters of crypto funding. His insights and experience have shaped the success stories of numerous projects, and today he's here to share that wealth of knowledge with us. And today, Paul will be addressing a topic that is at the forefront of everyone's mind: how do crypto funds evaluate projects in 2023? As we delve deeper into the world of crypto, understanding how projects are evaluated by funds becomes crucial. Paul will guide us through this process, shedding light on the key factors that crypto funds consider when evaluating projects. And now, without any further delay, it's time to welcome Paul Moukhin. We're all looking forward to diving into your insights. Paul, the virtual floor is all yours.
Hey everyone, I hope you are still fresh, and I believe after such excited speaking session from Nelly, it's absolutely. So let me share my screen and talk a little bit regarding to how the crypto funds evaluate the projects in this year. So this topic is quite wide, but I do my best to highlight the basics. And please feel free and ask me any questions if you want me to be deeper in somewhere. So let's start. A few words about me. I'm the partner of the BDC Consulting. We are the consultancy firm and provide strategic and execution 360-degree services for the startups from Web3 since 2017. And we work with this space from the different angles, and as the service provider, as an investor, as the partner, and working with lots of the startups and lots of investors, we see these gaps and bottlenecks and red flags which stop this process and make it very sophisticated for the both parties. And in this case, we decided to launch our own product. It's something like the Crunchbase and Moody's rating for Web3. We called it Let's Rise. It is the scoring index for the startups to highlight them where are on their way and what are the possibilities them to fundraise. And also this is the tool for VCs and investors to decrease the amount of spending hours for startup evaluation. So let's go. The startup scoring, the generals. Here you can find out the basics. What topics you should to highlight when you start negotiation with investors. There are the few of them, and the next slides I will give the additional comments for each one. So let's start from the first question. How do you think which one first? Where do you have to spend more attention before you start pitching the investors? Just put some answers to to YouTube chat. I'm looking here and see everything you write. Yeah, I see your answers. Market size and market traction. Thanks, Elvin. Okay, so feel free to continue and type your answers. And how do we see? How do I understand this? In our point of view, there are 3 layers of scoring for each startup. As previous speakers told before, you should understand that every analytic, every investors, before he start looking deeply into each startup, he have hundreds of startups. So, but his time is really limited. And each startup and his basic information should be very clear and understandable for the investor to decide, is he really ready to put the startup into his pipeline or not? Because from thousands, or from hundreds of pre-scored startups, only a few % of them are going to the pipeline. Just imagine how much of them. And in our point of view, so the first layer at the pre-pipeline scoring, every investors look to the product and its stage. So the product should be relevant for the current market, and its stage is very important. I mean, does it have any commercial traction, or just MVP, or just an idea? The team. So great team can do great products, and even if the basic ideas have the sharpness, the great team can do the great idea. Traction. That's mean, what are the evolution of your product, of your startup? Are there any changes there, or you're on the superstar bottom? And the valuation. So each niche, each type of projects, each industry has their benchmarks of the valuations. And if you start negotiating with investors and say, hey guys, we are gamified projects and we are on the very early stage, and our valuation is 40 mil. So you are out of the market, guys. And no matter what you will do next, you are out of the market. The second layer is the pipeline. So the pipeline includes much more topics and segments you should to describe. You should to do the homework before. They can include this one you can see on my screen, from the target markets, strategies, your competition, technologies, terms, and financial part as well. Lots of the information regarding these topics Nelli has described before. And the third layer is the invest committee. This is when you are already get money, but not yet. And this is very close analysis process for you at the startup, when the bench of the analysts, technical people relevant to your topic, screen your project, your documents, your team, etc. So it's for sure include the layer 1 and 2, and also some custom and very niche aspects. So let's go further and start from the target market. One moment. Let's start from the product and attraction, and then we go to the target market. So what is the traction? Traction is how your product move or do not move. And for sure, every investor want to see the product which have the already revenue, which have the sustainable financial model to earn money, and evaluation is low, and there are some ability to invest. But there are the super lack of projects with this situation. So that's mean that you have to pay attention, how could you show the traction? So the commercial one, as I mentioned before, is the revenue. And for sure, when you highlight your revenue data, you should focus on commercial metrics. For example, such as the MRR for SaaS product, or LTV for the bench of the products, or TVL for some kind of the ecosystem or DeFi products, etc. If you do not have commercial traction yet, so think, how could you ensure the investor that your project potentially could be the unicorn? Here could be your user base and their dynamics. The registration, the using the platform, probably they do not still pay for your products, but they use them, they invite their friends, etc., or something else. The GitHub commits, your technical milestones. This is everything show to investors that you do not sit on the same place. You move and you grow as the product. That could be the complete tests for your beta testers and their conclusions. Any kind of reviews of your early adopters, partnerships of the advisors, investors, industrial players, etc. So if you have signed the letter of interest, for example, or other evidence that you are already work with them, it's great as well. If you at least do not have even this, so start cooperate with your friends and family and include their feedbacks, for example. Try to get the audits from the auditors companies, for example, the technical audits that say that you are a highly secured product. Probably have any kind of the agreements with launch pads if you are going for the token sale campaign or exchange, or for example, you have the grant commitments. That's also very important. The second topic is I want to discuss is the target market. If you want to build a billion-dollar company, build a product in the multi-billion-dollar market. So if you want to be the unicorn in very small market, that's mean it's almost impossible to be this unicorn or multi-billion company. And it's important topic and a question how to count your market. We can make this short exercise how to make this. So for example, if your potential evaluation would be 1 billion, that's mean that you're a unicorn. That's mean that you have to generate 2 mil revenue annually. Ask this question to yourself, how could you generate this revenue? Is it possible or not? And then ask yourself, what is the percentage of market share this revenue is? If it's more than 5%, usually it's extremely hard to achieve these goals because of the competition. So this is why it's much more important to go to those industry and market which have much higher evaluation as the market than the current one, for example. So the small exercise, let's do this. We do not have a lot of time. I just try you to describe my logic, and these numbers you will see, they're going to be some kind of the mistakes, but the main point is how to count. So this exercise took for me something for about 15 minutes. So for sure, you need to spend more time to make the estimation. For example, ZK ecosystem. What is this serviceable obtainable market for this industry if you are the ZK product? So let's start from counting the total addressable market. How could we do this? Where could we find the resources? First, let's start to Google, and they try to find out the reports from research companies. And please combine different reports with each other to be ensured that their numbers are on the same line, okay? In our example, I opened the CoinMarketCap for today and highlighted that the current addressable market is 1.2 trillions at least. What is the service addressable market for the ZK ecosystems? I also opened the statistics from the CMC and find out that there are 10.4 billion as the addressable market. Logically, after this step, we should decide what percentage of the market share you as the project want to catch. But here could be the mistake, because for example, you are targeting for 5% of the market, but the amount of market, the addressable market, at least, does not mean that it is that there are enough of demand for the current market from the final customers. And when I was calculating, I decided to make to compare the current sum with the leading projects. And I decided that the amount of addressable market of the leading projects are more relevant to achieve than the whole market. And we see that there are just 4 billion. Okay, 3.4, but it's like the 4 billion, not the 10.4. And in this case, we decided that 5% of this market, our product want to catch. And the final calculation is something for about 170 million. It is the 5% from the serviceable addressable market. But it's not the 5% from the total service of addressable market, okay? Just logic. Let's go for the next point of the scoring for the startups is the business strategy and the business model. I believe most of you have heard about the lean canvas and what is it. So please do this home exercise. It's super important. When you fill all of these directions in the lean canvas, you will have the clear picture how your projects will be on the current market. How will you attract the new customers, your revenue streams, the acquisition, your competitors, etc. So firstly, do this for yourself. And after this, you can multiply this information to your pitch decks and make the description for your investors. There are the bunch of videos how to fill the lean canvas. Team. For sure, smiling people as the team is important, but if there are lack of information regarding the experience, it is the red flag. So the ideal picture is that when the team has deep experience in the area where they work. For example, the problem of the Web3 games is that founders of Web3 games, they are not from gaming industry. So they think regarding the game in the corner from the DeFi and earnings. But games are created for entertainment, not just the earning. So this is the concern. The core team have the significant experience. So you have had to do something in your field, including the business development experience. I mean, in business development experience means that you have already experience to make your own business. So you understand how to do this, not just the product. Your team should be fully engaged in the projects. If you are the part-time players, it's a red flag for investors, because if you do not fully focusing on your product, so that's really hard to succeed. But there are lots of the startups, even they have the not fully engaged team in their products, but usually they're serial successful entrepreneurs. And all necessary competencies are represented in-house. So what does it mean? If you outsource some of the core services your product provides, it's also the red flag. So for example, if you are the wallet and you say that we are the #1 wallet with and your additional value is the UX and UI, but your UX and UI manager or designer on outsource is a red flag. This is your core competence and you should have it in-house. So let's check, are there any questions?
Yep, we have one question before you started, but maybe you can answer it too. So the previous speaker, Nelli, said that you need to reach to many VC investors, but most of them don't reply or just pass without giving a feedback. How to deal with that? How to make investors more responsive to founders?
Great question and a great topic. So this topic mostly related to sales approach and outreaching strategy. That's okay if you, okay. It's very strange when your funnel looks like the pipe. So for sure, the sales approach is always the struggling. Usually you do not have the answers for your replies. So make the additional touches. Make the ABC testing for your topics, and be clear in the basic information you provide to the investor for the first time. This means the product, the problem you're solving, your main metrics and attraction, and then your letter could be some kind of the call to action. So please give us the feedback for our product, as an example. Okay. Deal terms. So regarding to the deal terms, in ideal picture, so you have to have the good valuation. It shouldn't be too high. For investor is better than it is the lower than the market benchmark. Availability for the co-investors. So for example, you do not, so you should have the available places for the investors, but not so much. Previous investment track is very important. So there are some types of the VCs. To be honest, I think that most of the VCs and investors make their investment decision if some tier one investors make the decision to invest before. So they look to the investors, high qualified investors, and if they invest, they start looking into the startup, or in the bullish market, they even could not make any kind of scoring. They just believe that, okay, as at 16 make the investments and I will do it as well. Shares and adequately allocation. So this is about equity or allocations and your shares distribution, your strategy for the future rounds. So the financial model and investment strategy should be prepared very well. Usually it's a bottleneck for the startups. Just do not hesitate to get the consultation from the people who are in the financial field for this point. And sure, the founders have the clear idea how will they use these investments. So it's like the roadmap, how will you use these funds in future. I think basically that's all main points I just wanted to highlight. Let me open the general slide with the scoring points, and let me know if you need any clarification for them. I will give more details.
Yeah, so we have two more questions. First is from Bertie Range. How do you approach total addressable market, service addressable market, when you lie between two genres?
For me, it's not clear what does mean when you lie between the genres.
Yeah, I'm not really. I don't really understand that too. So
okay.
please.
Okay. I think it's clear for me. So Bertie, do you understand? You're right that your product is between industry 1 and industry 2, and it's hard to decide which industry to count. So in my point of view, you solve some typical problems for the final customers, and you have the competition who solve these problems as well, and they could be from the different spaces, so these different industries. So you need to understand what industries are, and for example, and what is the market share of this industry is related to your problem. So for example, logistic, it's a giant industry, but there are the supply chain direction, and supply chain as the technology and service fits just for the part of the companies. For example, the medical tech, agro tech, or something else. And that's mean you understand that the medical tech from the whole logistic, it's 25%. That's mean that from the whole market, your part is 25%. Make the assumptions, make the contents, and then try to validate your idea with the industry experts and the VCs. So if you need money, go to the investors to get the advice. If you need the advice, go to the investor and ask him for the money. Okay, so validate the ideas.
Okay, so next question is from Terra Global Sales Partners. They say that we are looking at pre-seed funding. As a gaming studio, we have 6 game titles lined up. In such case, do we assess valuation per vertical or in general?
In general.
Yeah.
You should do your homework to find out the current valuations for the Web3 games in general. what are the current valuation for the early stage rounds. The last information I had in my head is subjective, but in general, for the early stage projects, the valuations should not be more than 20 mil in Web3 in general. So it could be higher or lower, but it is something like this. So C in general, but topic of the Web3 gaming is also very wide. If you just have the game, so its valuation as the game could be X, but if there are the ecosystem of the games, and if there are the bench of liquidity inside, if there are some kind of the DeFi services, if there are third-party teams who integrate with you, that's mean that you are like the ecosystem product. So your valuation in this case would be higher than just the valuation of the game. But the requirements for you as the gaming ecosystem is also much more higher. So think twice where to start.
Perfect, thank you. And one more question from Elba and Richard. Any scoring on tokenomics is used, deflationary, allocations, use case, math formulas on the economic models?
Okay, so it is the technical documentation which is required regarding it's a financial block. So in general, as I mentioned, it is in general. For sure, it's very important. It's extremely important for the crypto projects. You need to have the business model, financial model, tokenomics, unit economy as well. And you should to ensure the investors why your tokenomics is sustainable. So use the simulation modeling as well. So there are some services which do this simulation modeling just to make the forecast what will happen with your product when you have 100K users, for example. Because when you have 10K users, its economics could be sustainable. But when there are 100K, that could be going to be the default, for example. So it's, yes, for sure, it's also important.
Thank you. I think that was the final question. So thank you, Paul, for your deep dive into the world of crypto funds and their valuation process. Your insights are invaluable and will certainly guide many in their crypto ventures. As we transition to the end of this enlightening session, I would like to take a moment to express our deepest gratitude to our esteemed speakers, Moukhin, Nelli, Orlova, and Paul Moukhin. Your insights and expertise have truly enriched our understanding, and we're grateful for your time and contributions. And a special thanks to all of you who joined us today. Your participation and engagement have made this webinar a success. We hope you find the discussions informative and valuable. Before we part ways, I would like to remind everyone about our upcoming demo day. It's an opportunity not to be missed. Remember to submit your pitch decks to the Growly Telegram bot by the 28th of July. We'll handpick 10 decks, pitch on demo day, but rest assured, our experts will review every pitch deck we receive. The 3 winners of the demo day will receive exciting rewards, including the opportunity to share their pitch deck with 500 Web3 investors, exclusive one-on-one sessions with our esteemed speakers, and free premium access to InnMind.